for watching Numbskull News, and today I'm going to talk about The Stand. Not the book, which is absolute greatness, one of Stephen King's best, and not the miniseries that came out in '94, but I'm going to talk about that piece of shit that came out last year. Really just woeful and disgusting monstrosity that was on CBS All Access that came out last year. There's not a lot good to say about the damn thing, but I'm going to give you some positive feedback. And look, if you're a fan of the story, of the books, and of the old miniseries, you're going to get a lot more out of this video. If you haven't read the book and you've never seen the old miniseries in '94, then you're probably going to hate this video. I'm a huge fan. My wife's a huge fan. We sat down, we were excited. They redid it, updated it. So we sat down and watched it, and I think she got through the first 5 episodes. She had to stop. We watched the old mini series instead. I came back and finished this series. She was out. She just couldn't take it. I finished it, and yeah, it's a big piece of shit. However, I'm going to start this video at least talking about some positives. The biggest positive I could say is the cast was good. There were changes, Ralph Brittner is now Ray Brittner. Larry Underwood is now black, but that's cool. I don't care if you want to gender swap some people, you want to race swap some people. It doesn't matter as far as the story goes. So I'm good with it. And the people they got were fine. And as far as the rest of the cast go, I was good with them. Even Whoopi Goldberg as Mother Abigail, I don't think her performance was as good as the '94 miniseries. I believe it was Ruby Dee. But there were some additions here that I did enjoy. They brought the character of Rita. That's who Larry Underwood comes out of New York with in the book. And in the CBS version, they do use Rita, which, I thought that was kind of cool to see that. You got Nadine's backstory back from, you can see that Flag chose her back when she was a little girl to be, his wife and mother of his child. And, that was kind of cool to see. I did enjoy that. And again, an addition from the book was Harold writing where they were going and, where they were and, all this kind of stuff. And that's what Larry Underwood and his group, they follow that. And then, of course, Larry is just, wow, I got to meet this Harold guy, man. I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. I was lost. And he followed those signs all the way to Boulder. And that was, that was a cool addition from the book that they put into this new series. And I think pretty much at that point, that'll end the positivity. I mean, look, it's a given. It's updated, so the effects are better. The special effects are better. Uh, how people look when they have the super flu is, super gross and disgusting as you would think it would be. So that's better. But that's pretty much where it ends. Okay. That's where it ends. It everything else sucks ass. Complete ass. So let's start with the beginning of this new series. The book has 4 parts. So four acts, if you will. There's the plague, dreams, the betrayal, and then the stand. Those are the 4 acts. Those are also the 4 acts in the old miniseries. But in CBS's version, they start in the betrayal and then address everybody else with flashbacks. That's how they're trying to build the characters. And they said, at least the writers of the show, they said that they didn't want to focus so much on the world breaking down and the apocalypse and all that. They wanted to focus more on character development. The problem is doing it this way, the only people you actually develop is Harold Lauder and Nadine Cross. Everybody else gets shortchanged out the ass. I mean, it damn near a ton of this show, it's like it's Harold and Nadine's story, and everyone else is taking a side seat. It's crap. And doing it this way in flashbacks, you're making this is an epic tale from Stephen King. This is one of his greatest stories, and you make it seem small. like in the book and in the old miniseries, both. Every time you go to a new character, you're given the place and you're given the date. All right. So if it's Arnett, Texas, June, whatever, 21st, when they're focusing on Stu, or when the story is focusing on Stu and what's going on there. Or maybe the story switches to Franny, so it'll be Agunquit, Maine, let's say June 22nd. And doing it that way, that was one of the brilliant things Stephen King did with the story, with the book, is that it made the story just seem big and massive. It's not just an ensemble cast. It's like, wow, this is like stories of all these different people from all over the country. And that was extremely, extremely interesting. And of course, Stephen King did the screenplay in 94, which is probably why it's so much better than this piece of shit. So the old miniseries follows that same step, even though they have, they're working with 3 less hours. Original miniseries is about 6.5 hours, 6 to 6.5 hours long, and this new series is 9 hours. But the old series is telling a much better and broader, bigger story in 6.5 hours. And that's because the way it's written is like it is in the book. It's economical to go in chronological order. And look, I love stories that jump around, give you flashbacks. Pulp Fiction is told it, way out of chronological order. And I think it's one of the best movies ever made, if not the best movie ever made. And that works in so many other types of movies. But with The Stand, you need it to go in chronological order in order to give it the scale that the story deserves. And they just didn't do it. It seems small, and you shortchange a bunch of the characters. So let's get to some of the characters. How about Lloyd Henry? Lloyd is Flag's right hand man, handpicked, and in the book and in the old miniseries, there's a lot of growth with Lloyd. When you first meet him, he's an idiot. He's following this guy named Poke, and Poke is just an out of control moron, robbing people, killing them just at will, just because, haha, it's funny. And Lloyd's following this moron, ends up in prison, and has to resort to eating rats and even part of his roommate or cellmate in order to survive. And Flag finds him, frees him, and later on in the story, this idiot, this moron, is now a person of respect, and he's running Vegas. He's running the day-to-day operations. Flag isn't there, making sure every little group is doing what they're doing. Lloyd is trusted to do that, and everybody respects him because they know he's the go-between between them and Flag. And nobody wants to talk to Flag. Everyone's scared to death of Flag. Even people who voluntarily went to Vegas to serve him, they don't want to be in the same room with Flag. That's how intimidating he is and how scared they are of him. So of course, they're like, please, Lloyd, you deal with Flag. We'll give you our grievance. And the new one, Lloyd is just an idiot. He never grows. He's not running anything. He's pretending to run shit. Everyone just craps on him behind his back or right to his face. No one cares about Lloyd, which is ridiculous. And the worst thing of all is at the end of the new series, Lloyd actually turns on Flag. That is, oh my god, that killed me, because one of the cool things I always appreciated about Lloyd is at the end of the original story, he's, a lot of people are like having their doubts. Everyone's feeling, hey, things are going bad here in Vegas. Flag isn't as powerful as we thought he was, and people are starting to leave, getting the hell out of Dodge. One of the characters asked Lloyd, like, hey man, why don't you come with me? We're gonna go down to South America, Buenos Aires, whatever, and get as far away from this guy as humanly possible, and forget we ever hooked up with him. And he's like, no. He's like, I'm not gonna rat you out. You can go ahead and go, but I'm gonna stick around. He's like, why? You're crazy. Why would you do that? Because I owe Flag. I owe him my life. I would have starved to death literally in a prison cell, trying to stay alive eating cockroaches. And it's an acknowledgement of uh he actually became someone of respect and importance, which he had never been before and would never have been without Flag. So he makes a conscious decision to stay there and be the right hand. That was amazing, and an amazing growth from a guy who, you know, just a few months earlier would have tucked tail and run with everybody else because he was a coward. But at this point, he got some backbone, and Flag gave that to him. Now these are the bad guys, you know, but I thought that was pretty cool growth to see from that character, and you got none of it in the new one. And that reflects completely on how they wrote Flag in the new series. He's weaker. Vegas is chaotic. I mean, in just a couple of short months, they already have gladiator tournaments and these gigantic parties. People are getting high and drunk. And Flag is aloof, like, oh, okay, everyone's partying, cool. No, that's why people were being crucified, by Flag, because he caught them doing drugs, falling asleep at their post. He was trying to whip these people into shape. Flag is supposed to be a dictator and a damn scary one. Sure, he'll give you your freedoms. However, you're going to do it his way, or he's going to kill you in front of everybody. And you're going to be in miserable pain for whatever short period of life you have left if you cross him. We didn't get that with this Flag. This Flag is boring as hell. He's not intimidating in any kind of way. It was cool that he turns into a wolf. They used the wolf side of the character more. They didn't use that in the miniseries in '94. I mean, there was money issues. They couldn't computer generate everything, and at least not make it look worth a damn. In the old miniseries with him turning into a crow, that was way more intimidating than him turning into a freaking wolf. And remember, the Dark Man controls the wolves. There's not just one wolf, there's a lot of them. And they have red eyes. They live, in that space in between Vegas and Boulder in the mountains. And if you go through the mountains, you got to deal with his wolves. And that's always something that's been overlooked. It was overlooked in the old miniseries. And, there's, like I said, there's practical reasons why they couldn't do it. But in this one, they didn't really go that extra mile either. It was half-ass. It was, you're just going to use a wolf to make this guy scary instead of actually using his actions and how other people react to him. But the Vegas stuff, it just pisses me off because these guys are trying to get on their feet too. They got to clear up bodies. They got to get the power and water on. They got to do all these kind of things. They got to make sure there's enough food for everybody. There's a lot of practicalities you have to do when you're trying to rebuild a society, whether it's going to be a good one or you're going to be serving some evil tyrant. However, but they don't show any of that. Oh, we're just going to gladiator fight people to death. Okay. It's, this isn't Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. It's The Stand. Okay. I can understand maybe Vegas looking like that after like several years of Flag's control, but right off the bat, and another character, Trash Can Man. And, old Trashy, he's demented, he's crazy. There's no doubt about it. Pyromaniac to the hilt. However, they made him a little more gross. they, they made him more disturbed, if possible. But there was depth to Trash Can Man in the old miniseries and in the books. Uh, when Trash Can Man arrives in Vegas, he doesn't see Las Vegas. He sees Shangri-La. He sees heaven, streets of gold. That's what he sees. That's what his deranged mind sees when he sees Vegas. When he first meets Flag, he falls to his knees, worships him. My life for you, my life for you. And you get some of that. It's more subtle in this one, but you don't get the reverence he has for Flag. And at the end, it pissed me off what they did with this particular trash can man, because he's just being nuts. He's just, you know, like I said, there's just no depth to his end here. I loved the old miniseries did Trash Can Man so right, and so he shows up with his four-wheeler and a little trailer with a nuke strapped to the back of it, and when the hand of God comes down and grabs the nuke and detonates it, Trash Can Man is has his arms out and is saying, "My life for you, my life for you," which to me, you know, always had me questioning, was he really serving Flag or was he actually serving God? It just it didn't answer the question. The old miniseries didn't answer the question at all, and neither did the book. But there was something always ambiguous about Trash Can Man's end, just because of that line, because he's saying my life for you to the hand of God. So when he saw Flag, was he actually seeing God? And was he serving God the whole time? And Flag was just fooled? That's it's an interesting thing to think about. But this new series, we're not gonna, you know, we have no time to ponder such things. We're just gonna give you some straightforward horse shit, lightning coming out of a cloud. It's it doesn't have to be all that. Really, it doesn't. It's a nuclear detonation. That's enough. You don't need all the extra bullshit. And speaking of God, the new series really did a lot to take God completely out of the picture. Now, they still mention God a little here and there, but you know, uh, Tom Cullen, which by the way, I like the guy they got to him. I like the fact that he says that same thing, that little line he's trained to say to new people he's meeting to let them know he's mentally challenged. I thought that was a great addition to the character. But outside of that, we're not going to do anything with Tom Cullen that's actually worth a damn. Uh, One of the things the old miniseries I always loved about it, when they hypnotized him so he'd remember what he needs to do when they send him to Vegas to spy. Uh, all of a sudden he kind of knows what's going on. He knows what they're wanting him to do, and it kind of catches them off guard. And they're like, Are we still talking to Tom?" He's like, "Yeah, but no, I'm God's Tom." Uh, you know, so God was really permeated into the story, and make no doubt about it. Stephen King's an atheist, all right. He wrote God into the story of The Stand, and he did so on purpose. And he did so with a lot of respect. I won't say reverence because he's an atheist, but he did so respectfully. He used that Christian God in this. In the new series, it just seems they're just trying to just whitewash God out of there. We ain't got time for God. And in doing so, really takes a lot of the magic and the creativity out of The Stand. They did other changes that made not a whole lot of sense. So now, when Mother Abigail goes on her journey into the woods to atone for her sin, um, now she meets up with Flag, and they have like this duel kind of thing. I'll admit it was interesting to see it, but it was really just a waste of time. There was no reason for it at all. It wasn't in the book. It wasn't in the old series. This is them trying to be cute. Oh, we're gonna do something cool with these characters you never got to see before. Well, maybe we don't need to see it, you jackasses. Maybe the fact that these two characters serve different masters and want different things is battle enough. Okay, we don't we don't need some Star Wars epic fight. And what the new series did with Mother Abigail, She's from Hemingford Home, right? Nebraska. Oh, but wait, Hemingford Home is actually an old folks' home? How is this to prepare her for the end of the world? They didn't bother to address that. In the chapter in the book dealing with Mother Abigail, she spends her whole life in that little house in the middle of this giant cornfield in the town of Hemingford Home. And she's 106 years old. She was born in like Old West times, and the house never got electricity, never got running water or indoor toilets or any of that stuff. Her grandchildren had tried, hey, grandma, we want to put in some electricity. We want to put in running water. And she said no. She would always pray about it, and she's like, no, 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 God doesn't want me to have it. And why is that? Because when the lights go out, when the world ends, she's fine. She has no need for electricity or running water or technology. She's not dependent on that at all. So at 106 years old, she can survive on her own. Now, how is a 106-year-old woman in a nursing home dependent on chefs cooking for electricity, a toilet flushing? How is she going to be able to manage surviving for a few weeks until people start getting to her? That's the problem I got with the new series. It's bullshit. And what they did in the situation in Boulder, since they spent so much freaking time there, since most of the majority of the series is taking place in Boulder instead of all over the U.S. like it's supposed to be, what they did with Boulder sucks. I mean, take a look at Franny. Franny is now an asshole. She really is, right? The world ends and she goes to kill herself, even though she knows she's pregnant. Yet this is a person who won't take a sleeping pill or have a beer in fear of it, you know, hurting the kid. And that's from the book in the old miniseries. So that's one of the things they changed. She doesn't give a rancid shit about what's growing in her, which is not the character at all. And the way she treats Harold with so much suspicion, you know, that's not Franny either. Franny thinks everything's cool and copacetic with Harold. That's why it really comes out of left field. That's why the damn act in the book is called The Betrayal. That's why that act is so effective, is because there's a lot of times you think Harold is not going to go that direction. That's not really who he is. You know, before Harold takes his own life in that ravine he fell into, he writes, and this, in the new one, he writes like a whole damn novel of shit. But what the character actually just does, he writes, "I'm sorry, I was misled." That's all he writes on his little note that no one ever gets to read. Harold's a very intelligent person, and that was about all you needed to write. I was misled. That was exactly right. If not for Flag and Nadine, he doesn't blow up the council. He doesn't kill Nick. He doesn't do any of those things. He enjoys being called Hawk. You know, he's working with all these people, and people are starting to see him not as some punk ass dork kid like how he grew up, but they're starting to see him as a man, someone to be respected. And one of the guys gives him a nickname of Hawk, and he really likes that. He embraces it. Now, is the Franny stuff going to screw with him? Yeah. Might he actually venture to Vegas on his own? Yeah, but he's not going to hurt anybody. That's not who he is. It's who he can be if he's misled or pushed in the wrong direction, which is what happens, but not in this series. He's always been kind of deranged, kind of evil. And that's not Harold. He's not naturally evil. Maybe creepy, but not evil. And Franny is a kind, generous person, forgiving. Not this Franny. This Franny's an asshole. But being an asshole seems to be, in this new series, what what a lot of Boulder's about. So their first big town meeting, where The first committee is put into place. Stu and Larry and everybody else. Uh, People are bitching and complaining to him, like, like they're mad, like, and that is not at all what Boulder is in the book or the old series. I mean, people are genuinely happy to be alive and that they have found people. There's love and community. That's what it's supposed to be. But that's not what you get here. You get people bitching. You're bitching. You just lived through the apocalypse. I mean, 99.9% of everybody else is dead. You made the 0.1% and you're going to bitch that the electricity ain't on yet? Get a solar panel, asshole. God. And the last guy I'll cover, the last point I'll make in this long diatribe is Glenn. Glenn, like I like the casting in the new one. However, we don't get, like every other character, we don't really get growth with Glenn. Glenn in the old one, he's in both of really in both stories, he's the glass is half empty type of guy. He's a pessimist. He's a cynic. Uh, very logic bound. However, in the old miniseries, and I have to say in the book, Glenn gets to a place of faith in believing in Mother Abigail's God. And you can tell by the time he meets his end, he has been, because he said, look, it seems like Mother Abigail wanted us four to go to Vegas in the last chapter of the book and just walk, just to clothes on your back. Don't pack anything, because it's like God wanted them emptied out to be filled up with something else. That something else would have been probably the Holy Spirit or God's Spirit, however you want to see it. And it's kind of implied that that's Glenn, a person of faith, not afraid to die anymore. It's a spiritual turn in a character who is a college professor, like I said, very logic bound, not a person of faith at all. And to see that person come to faith and that story written by an atheist is exceptional. It's that's the only thing I can say. It's inspiring to see someone like that who can write about somebody turning to faith like that. And you get none of that here. You really don't. You don't get this. You don't get that with this adaptation at all. And it's why it's one of the worst Stephen King adaptations out there. And there are some bad ones. And this one, it may not be the absolute worst, but it's one of them. So if you're thinking about signing up to CBS All Access, or it might be on Paramount as well, I'm not sure. Just to watch this, save your money. you know, Find the old stand, the old miniseries. Like I said, the effects are dated, and they didn't have the absolute best cameras. It looks a lot of times like a TV movie, but the story is so well written. It's well acted. It's also well cast. You'll just enjoy it a lot more as a overall grand epic tale than this piece of shit. Well, that's all I got on this crap, and it is crap. And I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.